Hi, I'm Ari, I'm the Oak Witch, and in today's video I'm going to be going over 5 witchcraft books that every witch needs to read. So it has been a little while, and if you're a patron or on my Discord server you sort of know what's going on, but life has kind of just been a bit crazy. But I had some time today and I wanted to film a video. I know it's been like 2 months, but yeah, I wanted today's video to be about some books that I've been reading over the past sort of few months that I thought were really good, really insightful and kind of crucial, because the witchcraft community and the pagan or magical occult community is so broad, and you know, it's not a monolith. There's people from all different sorts of backgrounds having different experiences, and it's something which I think doesn't get highlighted a lot of the times in these Witchcraft 101 books that you see a lot of the time. But there are some authors sort of collaborating, producing these really interesting books on intersectionality within witchcraft, and I thought I would share some of the ones that I've read I think are really good and that you should read. Jumping straight in, I thought I'd start with The Modern Craft: Powerful Voices on Witchcraft Ethics, edited by Askew and Alice Tarbuck. And this is what it looks like. It is a 22 release, published by Watkins. So Watkins is a bookshop in London, all specialising in occult books and spirituality books, but they also have a publishing company, and they've published some really interesting titles. And this one I saw of theirs, I had to grab it. The essays in this anthology kind of cover different topics such as gender transitioning or class within witchcraft, disability, even racism, talking about like misconceptions of African traditional religions. Really interesting things in here. I think these sorts of anthology essays where it's just authors contributing to, you know, a book like this, talking about their experiences, it's really raw and it's really powerful, and I think it's nice to have those perspectives that you might not have yourself. So really good book, and it's really pretty as well. It's like really nicely laid out and designed, so that's always an added bonus. But yeah, some of the authors in here which you may or may not recognise: Sabrina Scott, obviously Alice Tarbuck and Claire Askew, Lilith Dorsey, and many other authors which I hadn't heard of, but now I'm on the lookout for, because some of the essays in here are really interesting. I think there was one essay I really liked called Altars of Transition, and the way that they described magic I thought was just really lovely. Obviously it was in relation to their gender transition journey, but they describe magic as magic is doing without knowing, becoming without being, the spiritual practice of hope. So I thought that was really lovely and really poetic, but yeah, really good book. Definitely recommend this one. The next book I read through Scribd, and it is called Sacred Gender: Create Trans and Non-Binary Spiritual Connections by Ariana Serpentine. So this is a 22 release by Llewellyn, and obviously a fellow Ariana, and I read this through Scribd, and it was a really interesting book. I see a lot of books talking about sort of looking at that gender binary in magic and spirituality and paganism and critically looking at it, and I've seen a lot of them, but this one caught my eye because it felt like it was written specifically for those who are genderqueer, gender questioning, trans or non-binary, and I sort of liked that. It was written for that reader, as well as being something which is really insightful for those who are cisgender and just interested in looking at gender in a different lens than the traditional, you know, male and female. So of course this book does feel like a very personal book to the author, but it's also a really interesting guide into looking at these traditional concepts like the triple goddess, maid, mother, crone, and the divine masculine, divine feminine, and critically analysing those concepts and how people who are transgender or non-binary fit into that. How it's not necessarily like rejecting the idea of that binary, but just looking at it from a different lens, and then also guiding people through their gender journey through the lens of magic in this way. So it was really insightful. There's lots of journaling prompts, so lots of room for introspection, which is, you know, perfect for a book like this. And I just thought it was really lovely. I learned a lot. I like that they sort of talk about this idea of gendered magic in a way which is both critical but also celebrating gendered magic in an inclusive way. So yeah, I really like this one. The next book I again read through Scribd, and it is Witchcraft Activism, a Toolkit for Magical Resistance by David Salisbury. So this was published in 2019 by Red Wheel Wiser, and I thought this was a really nice 101 guide to justice magic in witchcraft. So I think justice magic is something which is really underlooked in a lot of modern craft, including my own, and it's why I've been reading a lot of these types of books, because it's something I really want to dive more into and get better at. And I thought this was a really nice basic guide. It's useful in the sense that it provides practical ways to perform like political praxis through magic, but also having like more introspective journaling, sort of looking within as well, which is equally as important, and also has details of witchcraft history in activism and even looking at mythology. So I think actually it's really nice. It covers the basics. I mean, like with any witchcraft or magical book, there's things in here which aren't always gonna be stuff you relate to, aren't really your thing, but you know, as a guide that has like, you know, what justice magic is and how you would perform it, and both, you know, practically and within, and also little bits about history and going forward, I think is certainly one that's really good to have on your shelf. The next book I think every witch should read is Bringing Race to the Table, Exploring Racism in the Pagan Community, edited by Crystal Blanton, Taylor Ellwood and Brandy Williams. So this was published by Megalithica Books in 2015. And it's another sort of anthology of essays specifically looking at racism, discrimination, you know, regarding race in the pagan community. And where it says pagan, I think it is something which definitely applies to the wider spirituality and magical community. So it's not specifically for pagans, although of course that is what it's centered around. This one I've spoken about on my channel quite a few times, and I really like this one because it's split into different sections. So the first one being all about people of colour's experience of racism in the pagan community, which I think is really insightful. The next one is talking about historical mythological racism, which I think there's some really good essays in this section and stuff which is really eye-opening. It talks about a lot of things which not a lot of people like to talk about, so it's really interesting essays in there. And then the latter half of the book is talking about how to be an ally. So not only is there like discussion on actual experiences from people who suffer discrimination in the pagan community and how, you know, how it makes them feel, and getting that perspective that you might not have, I think is crucial to sort of absorb, at least acknowledge. And then also more historical lens to racism and paganism, but then also like how to put that into practice, how to better yourself, which I think as an all-encompassing book, I think it's really useful and really insightful. So some example essays in this book which I really liked was Amy Hale's Marketing Rad Trad. So this talks about the unfortunate influence of the New Right and paganism, especially looking at traditionalism and anti-modernism. There's a lot of anti-Semitism in magical communities, just things like that. I thought that essay was really good because it highlighted how much of modern paganism is actually very much influenced by the far right. It's a very critical analysis of that, and I think something which, you know, needs to be talked about a lot more. Another essay I really like touches on white privilege in Thelema, specifically, of course, looking at Aleister Crowley, who was a bigot, and how, you know, these like structures of white supremacy in these groups like the OTO, it is certainly present and certainly something to be aware of, and these essays highlight these issues well and give you food for thought. This is just a very good book, definitely recommend it. And the last book I recommend is very similar to the prior book, and it is Shades of Faith, Minority Voices in Paganism, edited by Crystal Blanton. So this is sort of what it says on the tin. I've also reviewed this on Patreon, I've spoken about it before, so I won't go into too much detail, but this one is an anthology of different voices in paganism who experience discrimination, just talking about their experiences, what they sort of have to face within the community. And honestly, I think it's something which is really crucial for everyone to read. These sorts of anthology books detailing, you know, people's own perspectives and experiences of, you know, these issues, I think is really crucial, because it just goes to show the wider systemic issues of, you know, racism, general discrimination, and how it of course bleeds into the pagan and magical witchcraft community. And it's something which is important to acknowledge, and it's really important to talk about. So yeah, those are the 5 books I think every witch, but every magical practitioner, pagan, anyone who's in the spiritual community should read. I think these are issues that are present, and a lot of people turn a blind eye because it doesn't affect them. And even if it's unintentional, it's still a problem. So I think just taking the time to be more aware of these things that are happening right in front of us in our communities, and I think starting there with that awareness, that knowledge, will lead us to being, you know, better in praxis. And it's a starting step, and I think these sorts of books are really good for that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm really sorry I haven't been around. As I said before, life has just been a lot right now, and a lot of my spare time has been spent writing a book that is going to be published over the following year, and I will give you more details another time. But yeah, that's exciting, and that is happening. But of course it's been a lot of my focus in regards to my sort of oak witch stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, and I'm hoping now I've got more free time to make videos for you guys, because I do miss them. But yeah, thank you for watching and supporting, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.